I would not only talk about books but also about movies. Hello my loves! I feel like it's been so long since we haven't talked because I've been doing many vlogs lately. So kind of a long time ago, someone asked me in the comment section if I could talk about my books that I liked. And so I thought I would not only talk about books but also about movies because I watch some movies, not that much, but I watch some movies. And there are some movies that really stuck with me, that I want the world to see these movies. Also with these books, I will be honest with you right now, the books will be more classic and basic books that you've probably seen many times on Book Talk. Not all of them though. Just before we dive into the video, please take a look at my coffee cup. Isn't it the cutest thing? Every day it will remind me how I miss Amsterdam and that I want to go there so bad again. I just love this city. So let's start with the books that I think are for rainy days, sensible and quiet souls. I hope it wasn't too cringe to watch me say that. We first have a book that I discovered through school. So we have Caligula by Albert Camus. This book is in French, but you can probably find it in English and in any language that you want because it's Albert Camus and this man is famous. I've read different stuff about him. I liked each one of the books he wrote, but I think that this one is the one that stuck the most with me. So I read this first book a first time and I was like, it is interesting. A theater piece, so it's written like this. I wasn't that much into it, but I was like, it's interesting. And then with school, I learned that there were many parallels with World War II, and the world wars are something that really passionates me. Not in a good way, like this was one of the worst catastrophes that ever happened and it is terrible, but I don't know, it's a subject that really intrigues me and that I like to read about, and studying all these parallels was really interesting and it made me like this book 10 times more. If you read this knowing that there are many parallels with World War II, it can be really interesting, so maybe save this book. Then we have another French classic called La Femme gelée by Annie Ernaux. I finished this book a month ago, so it's really recent. If you read introduction, because you maybe don't speak French, I don't know if it'll be as great, because what I really liked in this book was the way it was written, which was very different from what I usually read. This author has a really particular style, writing style, so I don't know if the introductions are as great, but the writing style was something that really made me like this book. And also it's just about like the daily life of women in the 80s. Maybe not, no, I think the 60s, but I'm not sure. It was really interesting because it was just how oppressing it can be to be a wife, having a job, but also having to make food and just take care of the children, and then the husband just living his life. So this is not too much about life now, but this kind of life for women still happen in 2025, and it happened a lot before, it still happens, and it was just a really interesting reading. So then in poetry, so this is really basic and this is the poetry book of TikTok, so I'm so sorry in advance for people who are tired of seeing this book. But a long time ago I read Milk and Honey. I did annotate some stuff, and honestly I've read this so long ago that I wouldn't remember. But it was one of the first poetry books that I've ever read. I haven't read a lot since then, but I wish I will. I really want to get more into poetry. This book, I know that so many people say it is overrated, but personally I think it was really pretty. I think it was beautiful, and it's poetry about the life of women. Not all women, of course, because every woman has a different life, but there were many things that I thought were resonating or were just beautiful. I think it's also like kind of a self-help book. Feels like it. Next, I'm so sorry for this one, but I had to put it. The Sacred History. So I know you are so sick of hearing about this book, but how could I mention books without mentioning this brick that I spent I think more than a year to read, and I'm not ashamed of that. I wasn't about to put this book first, but then I thought if it wasn't that famous already, I would think this book is a masterpiece. I just didn't because it was like I had really high demands on this book because of its hype. So at first I was a little bit deceived, and also I was surprised because I did not expect that. But then I thought to myself, it hadn't had that hype, I would absolutely love this book. So if you take off the fact that it has a lot of hype, I think everyone can love this book. It just takes a lot of time to read, but you will survive and you will be like, what the fuck have I read? But it will be great. Then we have obviously the Bell Jar, because same, absolutely same. When I finished this book, I was a little bit deceived, but then I thought to myself, if it hadn't had that much hype and I had read it, I would also love this book. So Sylvia Plath, yeah, thank you. And finally, but I don't have the book with me, Lettre, inconnue by Stefan Zweig. So the original version, I don't think it's in French. I think maybe it's in German, but it's a really short book that I read I think a year ago, and it was really beautiful. It was just the letters of a young girl that had a passionate love for her neighbor, I think. Wait, I think it was that. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was that. And it was written so beautifully, and it was so short that you can't not read it. I mean, you don't have to read it, but I would recommend to read it. Now let's talk about my favorite part of this video, which are movies, because I have much more arguments about this topic. And also I switched to an American accent because it requires less effort than trying to do a British accent and even failing it. So you know what, I will start with the American accent, which is also probably French accent. But okay, first, Frances Ha. So this is a movie I watched also really recently. The filmmaker, I forgot his name, but Greta Gerwig stars in it, and it just, I absolutely love this woman. I love all of her movies she's made, but also like, I've just watched 2 of the movies she's acted in it, but I've watched all of the movies she's made. Okay, we don't need an Estelle to fangirl over Greta Gerwig, so I will stop talking about that. So this movie was in black and white, surprisingly, because it was a movie that came out in 2012, so I don't know why the director made that decision, but honestly it didn't bother me at all. It's about a girl called Frances who is really a little bit chaotic, but she's really sweet and she's got a really nice heart. She's in New York and she lives with different people. She's like in her late 20s, I think, like 27 or something like that, and she's a dancer, modern dancer. She's just like really passionate about life, even though her life is pretty chaotic, but she's like really, she loves life. I think this was my interpretation. It's just a really beautiful movie, coming of age, slice of life. So if you like that kind of stuff and you like loving the characters, then you will probably love this movie. Then same, this movie, I've never heard of it online, but it's called Beginners by one of my favorite directors that I forgot the name. No, Mike Mills, I think. Mike Mills, I think it's Mike Mills. So this movie is about a guy in, I think he's also 27 or something like that, or maybe 37, I don't know. He's a graphic designer, but this doesn't matter in the story, but I just wanted to say that because I thought it was cool. And his mom dies because of cancer. Then just when his mother dies, his father comes out as gay when he's like already like 75, I think. And 5 years after he comes out, he dies also from cancer, I don't know. These are not spoilers, these are said in the beginning of the movie. All through the movie we just see like present and past of the guy who's a graphic designer, who I don't know how he's called, and his relationship with his dad. And it's just a really beautiful movie. There's not a villain, or like, you know, it's not like a villain movie or anything. Like, all of the characters are lovable. And he also meets a girl, what's her name? I don't know how she's called. I forget names really easily. It's honestly pretty concerning because in my everyday life it's also a concern. And so like, it's kind of their love story, but it's also his story with his parents. I just love how this director makes his movies. There are many different types of medias in his movies and it's really beautiful, so watch this movie. I also thought that the topic was really original, and I had never seen like anyone else talking about like old people being in the LGBTQ community in movies. I don't know, I feel like this is a topic we talk really little about, and I loved seeing it in a movie, and it was just like such a great movie. So please go check that movie. Why do I feel like an influencer being like, go check the link in my bio, please? Like, no. Anyways, okay, by the same director, Mike Mills, we have 20th Century Woman. I have been bullying my sisters and my mom and everyone in my surroundings to watch this movie. So I will bully you to watch this movie, okay? I have just fallen in love with this movie, also with the actor. But I have watched this movie before Beginners, so before the other movie of this director, and it was just like one of the best movies of my life, I think, that I will ever watch. I'm being really dramatic, but if you know what is Letterboxd, it's like a movie app where you can put the movies you like the most, and this movie has immediately been in my top 4. You can put like a top 4 of your 4 favorite movies of all time. When I finished watching this movie, I immediately put it in my top 4 because it just deserves that place. It's a movie about a woman that had her child when she was 40 years old, and everyone was like, you're way too old to have a child. She was like, no, I'm gonna have my child and we're gonna be really happy. And the movie happens when child is 15 years old, and also he does not have a dad because he just left, I think, in the beginning of the movie, but I'm not sure, but yeah. And so we see that guy living in the 70s. If you like the 70s, you will love that movie because there's much of this 70s vibe. So he grows up in California. He's got a best friend called Julie, which is played by Elle Fanning, which is such a beautiful and amazing actress. Also, Greta Gerwig stars, not stars, but plays in that movie, so that is great. And he just grows up surrounded by women and girls, and he just grows up being kind of a feminist. He was pretty young, and at that time not many men were feminists, so it was like pretty uncommon. It's just a coming of age movie, so there's not that much that happens, but it's just a beautiful and amazing movie. Like, the acting is so great, the cinematography, the way it's directed, the subject, everything, it's just so great, and I love that movie so much. So please go watch that movie, like, it's just so good. Next, we have a movie that I watched last week when I was dying from being ill. I'm being so dramatic right now, and it's called Aftersun. This movie is genuinely beautiful. Like, it's just obviously beautiful. I don't know how to explain. The images are so beautiful. It's about a girl and her dad having summer vacations in a country that I don't know which one. I think it was Turkey. Can you say Turkey in English? I don't know. There's so much summer vibes. Like, if you want to have a sip of summer, watch that movie. It's like you feel in summer. I watched that movie when it was -2 degrees outside, so the reality wasn't really matching the movie, but I felt like it was summer. And the images are really beautiful. I won't lie, I don't think I understood the end of the movie, because when I went on TikTok, this is always what I do when I finish a movie. When I went on TikTok to like watch kind of edits and just people talking about that movie, everyone was like, oh my god, the ending, when I understood it all, and I was like, okay, I don't think I understood what you mean, but I just think it was beautiful, and I think I kind of understood, but I'm not so sure. By the way, this was my sister who recommended me that movie. Just wanted to say that. So yeah, if you want to have a sip of summer, go watch that movie immediately. Oh my god, I watched that movie at my grandma's because I always watch like old classics at my grandma's, which is called Les Jeux interdits, but in English, Forbidden Games, I think, which is a really old movie. I think it was made in like 40s. Is that even possible? No, it was probably made in the 50s or 60s, I think. And it's about a little girl. Her parents die in the war, get killed, and she starts living with a farm family, and she becomes friends with the little boy that lives there. And it's just their friendship because they do kind of like stupid stuff, and it's like the ending, I was like, no, I was so sad. It was a really touching movie. Some stuff was like, okay, that was another period, because like now those stuff wouldn't be very much accepted, I think, which for the better. I'm absolutely not complaining, like, thank god. But it was really a really touching and beautiful movie. Though it's in black and white, I just want to like clarify this before someone because like this is old. Yes, I know. Okay, this is the ultimate slow movie, slow life, whatever you want, slow, perfect days. So this movie is really slow. I think it's like more than 2 hours and literally 3 things happen, but it's so beautiful. I mean, my whole family watched that movie, though I think one of my sisters didn't watch it, but anyway, and they all loved it. We literally have like really different styles in movies, but all of us loved it because it's just so beautiful. Though if you like fast things, go run and do not watch that movie because like that is your nightmare. It's about a guy that lives in Tokyo and his job is to wash toilets. Literally, this is all that happens in the movie, washing toilets. At some point, her nephew comes to visit him and some other stuff happens, but like not a lot happens. But it's just so beautiful, and the acting, like he probably has 2 lines in the whole movie, but just like the facial expressions acting is so good. So emotive, sensible, and whatever you want. And finally, okay, if you've watched some of my videos before, you've probably heard me talking about this movie a lot, and I'm sorry, I apologize in advance, but I cannot talk about movies without talking about Little Woman. Little Woman 2019 Greta Gerwig version, of course. This is also one of my top 4 movies, and honestly, I feel like it matches a lot the 20th Century Woman movie because they just go together, you know, like makes sense. This is like the most warming movie that you can see. It's so beautiful. It's so like, oh my god, so warming. Such a hug, you know. I hope you liked my little recommendations. I will put all of the movies and books in the description in case you wanna like check something that you forgot. Please, if you have any recommendations that you think match the vibe, put them in the comments because I would love to see your recommendations. I really need to fill my movie watch list. Absolutely not. I have already the Bible to read, not the Bible, but like a Bible size list to read. So I hope that you liked this video. I hope that you will have so much fun reading. I mean, not fun, I don't think that fun is the right word, but I hope you will have a really nice time reading and watching these books and movies. If you do, please tell me what you thought about it in the comments. I hope this helped you. I'm gonna have to stay like this so the lamp doesn't fall, but I'll see you soon, I hope. And please follow and like if you like this video, and bye!